Welcome to the Open Forum in the Villages, Florida podcast. In this show we talk to leaders in the community, leaders of clubs and interesting folks who live here in the Villages, to give perspectives of what is happening here in the Villages, Florida. We are a listener-supported podcast.
How can you support our podcast? This is Mike Roth, and listeners, I'm thrilled to share with you this podcast, which is my passion project for you. This podcast brings me joy, brings you knowledge, inspiration, and a lot of things that people need to know about the Villages and the people that are living here and what's actually going on. Creating this podcast is a labor of love, even though it demands more time than I can easily spare. But hey, time isn't something we can buy back, right? Now, here's where you come in, the unsung heroes and heroines. You can help us keep the podcast alive and thriving. How? By becoming a supporter. There are two simple ways that you can support us. The first is a small monthly donation. Visit our podcast website, openforuminthevillagesflorida.com, and click on the black supporter box. Even a small $3 to $10 a month donation makes a difference. And guess what? You can cancel anytime, no strings attached. The second way that you can contribute to the podcast is by making a purchase of an Amazon product at Amazon standard prices, and we are paid a small commission on each purchase as an Amazon affiliate. That way there's no extra money out of your pocket, but you are supporting the podcast. Check every week because we're going to be adding new Amazon products that you can buy and support the podcast with. Thank you. And your support means the world to us. Stay curious, stay inspired, and keep those headphones on.
This is Mike Roth on Open Forum in the Villages, Florida. I'm here today with Dr. Salvatore Forcina. He's a medical doctor for joining me today. So,
thank you, Mike. Thank you.
Good. How many years did you practice as a doctor?
Approximately 40 years.
Okay. And Sal, you have an interesting background. Because you're born in Italy?
Yes.
And then you grew up in Argentina?
Yes. When I was 8 years old, my parents moved to Argentina because the effect of the war, there was the location where we were in Italy, Casino, was the front of the war there. And there was a lot of destruction. And as a matter of fact, my father lost his brother. And there was a lot of misery. So my father, in desperation, really wanted to go to the end of the war. He was at that time Argentina, to stay away from war and possibly brother.
And you stayed in Argentina until you were how old?
Until I was 28 years old. I spent in Argentina 20 years.
Okay, so you went to medical school in Argentina?
Yes, I did. All the secondary classes, college and university, and I graduated in Argentina as an MD.
And you went back to Italy after that?
Yes, because I'm a very historical, I like history, the ancestors, background. So I was dreaming about going to hoping that I could specialize there. And that was my dream. But eventually, when I was there, I saw that there was no future for me there either because the bureaucracy, it was not too different from Argentina. So I was lucky enough that where my parents live, Scauri, is a summer resort. And during the summers, some distant family from the United States me there, and then we started to talk. We were having a cup of coffee. And they say, Sal, what are you doing here? You have to come to the United States. So it was easy to say because at that time, I didn't have a clue. First of all, my degree was not recognized in the United States.
Your medical degree?
Medical degree. I didn't speak English.
At that time?
Spanish and Italian. So what happened was I wrote to my cousin that was here in the United States. They said, you're welcome, come here, whatever. So I came, and of course, for day number one, I was impressed. I said, this is the promised land for me. There is a future here for me if I apply myself. So eventually I find out I had to take the exams, special exams given to the foreign graduate or that foreign graduate or the American graduate graduated outside the United States. And this was given twice a year. And of course, this exam were a nightmare for me because I never saw a multiple choices in my life. And they were thinking and reasoning You are 28 years old, it's very difficult. It was very difficult for me. All my life I have been a guy like being in the middle of the ocean with a small boat, and you look the surrounding and you don't see any land.
No.
I don't see anything. And you are at the mercy of the wind. And that has been my life.
Okay. So what city in America did you move to?
I went first to New York and spent 2 years with my uncle and aunt. And so eventually I had a family in Connecticut, Stamford, Connecticut. And from there I had to go to New York University to learn English.
NYU.
The NYU. And so what happened was that I didn't have any money. So my uncle and aunt had to come up with the money. And eventually I paid them back, whatever. I thank you very much. And my family helped me the best. And gradually I start to see and I start to admire this country more and more because in Argentina, when we moved to Argentina, we were immigrant. But immigrant in 1949, you're at the bottom of the scale.
Sure.
We were in the basement. And you're talking about the other kids. For somebody in my condition, to study, I had to study when I was in university. I had to study without books. My parents couldn't afford the books. So what happened was in Argentina, the person that at that time they used to study, they were for a family because some of them care about their career, but some of them, they were there just to get the piece of paper because it was a prestige.
Sure.
All right. For me, was something that my father had talked to me. He was a worker and he didn't have the possibility of study. So he encouraged me to study. Of course, when I went 8 years old, I didn't want to study.
Of course.
So now what happened was that I was going around with the other kids. We were in the outskirts of the city. There were no asphalt. There was just a dirty road, and we were keeping the improvised ball made with the socks.
Right.
Okay. So happened not too far away from my parents' house, there was a church. And at this church, on that occasion, some priest came and I was there. And one of those occasions, I was talking to one of the priests, and he started to show me pictures of the college where the kids were trained. And they showed me horse. They were swimming in the pool. And so all that was all new to me.
Wait a minute. Did you say a horse was swimming in the pool?
No. Oh, there were a horse.
Yes.
There was kids.
I had a swimming pool.
Swimming pool in the river, a creek, whatever. There was so playing football, soccer, whatever. All that was new for me. So I asked my father, I would like to go there. Of course, my father said, God, finally you listen to me, because he was all the time wanting for me to study because he couldn't study. Anyhow, I was 11 years old and I was there for 7 years. They were German police, Redemptorists. They were very strict, very Spartan upbringing.
Was that a live-in school or just
living? Yeah.
in the school?
In the school for 7 years, yeah. And I suffered a lot. Before going there, I was a kid, wise guy. So when I went there, and there were different type of punishment, sometimes even corporal punishment.
Well, it was a different time.
They were different time. So what happened after 7 years, I was not the same person. Psychologically, I was timid, introverted, shy, insecure. So when my father saw that, he didn't like that. So anyhow, I left there. I went to public school for 2 years. And what happened was that school was not recognized by the state. So now I had to take the secondary exam for first and second secondary grade. The third one I had to repeat because there was not enough time because the classes started already. My life had been all the time an up and down.
You retook the classes and wound up back in public schools.
Yeah, public school, yes. And of course, the public school was a different thing for me because the people were wild. In the private school, when you drop a pencil, you had to raise your hand to pick it up. And the public school was just... And so what happened, what I noticed in the public school, I have all the time something, the desire to be somebody. I was nobody. I want to be somebody.
Right.
And so what happened was I found out that the school has a library with all books and this and that. I asked to get some books. And so the elderly came and they opened the thing and I chose the book. And from that day on, the books were there, beautiful books. But what happened was that no people was reading the book. So I was reading on a weekly basis. Those were Shakespeare, and that's why Dante, I get the classic upbringing.
So when did you decide that you wanted to be a doctor?
When I finished the college, so my father said, what are you going to do now? I said, I couldn't make any plan because the plan for me, you have nothing. And so the plan is just a dream. It's like a cloud, the formation of the cloud. They had one shape now, the wind come and modify the shape. And that was my life. So what happened was that all my friends, they were son of the lawyer, the doctor, estanciero, people who have a lot of land, the cows. And I was the son of the immigrant. We had nothing. Okay? So I said, I would like to, my friend going to university, want to study medicine. I would like to study medicine. I said, my father said, spoke with my mother. He said, we have limitations. Let's see what we can do. But my father used to tell my mother, even if he does accomplish 1 year, 2 years of the university, at least he can say, you know what? I went to the university and I have 1 year medical school, 2 year medical. That's the limitation, the ambition that we have at that time.
Sure. So how many years in medical school did you spend in Argentina?
7 years.
You spent 7 years.
7 years.
Did you have a specialty?
I was a general doctor, and eventually when I came to this country, I specialized.
Okay, and you specialized in?
Surgery. Yeah, I did the general surgery, I did trauma, and I did peripheral vascular bypasses, okay? And the last 15, 18 years, I specialize in laparoscopic. In other words, with a video, through a small hole, you do the surgery, colon, hernias, gallbladder, whatever, appendix, whatever.
The Da Vinci machine.
Yeah, some sort of that, yeah.
And you retired as a doctor.
Yes, right now I'm retired after almost 40 years.
Okay. Where did you practice mainly?
In
New Jersey.
Yeah, I ended up being a chief of surgery in 2 hospitals, Holy Name Hospital and East Coast Meadowland, just across from New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My brother lives, sure.
I used to live in Ridgewood.
Good. Yeah, well, there are a lot of ex-New Jersey people.
Yeah.
And now we're going to hear a couple of words about Alzheimer's disease from Dr. Craig Curtis.
Dr. Curtis, when an individual decides to participate in an Alzheimer's study, are there any inpatient days required?
Not in any of the studies or research that I do, but there are research trials out there where patients can spend time in an inpatient setting while taking part in research. But here in the Villages, I am not aware of any.
With over 20 years of experience studying brain health, Dr. Curtis's goal is to educate the Villages community on how to live a longer, healthier life. To learn more, visit his website, craigcurtismd.com, or call 352-500-5252 to attend a free seminar.
How long ago did you move to the Villages?
10 years. 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
Yes.
And here in the Villages,
Yes.
how many clubs do you belong to now?
I play.
What are your activities here at the Village?
Well, I used to play golf until now, but I haven't because what happened, I'm an active person. And so I bike, and I bike like 20 miles, 3-4 times a week, and I walk in between. 1 year ago, April the 1st, I was biking and end up with discomfort, stomach, epigastrium, discomfort. I rest, and I was sitting in Brentwood, and I was sitting on the bench, and this gentleman passed by, looked at me, he said, "Are you all right?" I said, let me take you home. So convinced me, I took home. Thank God at that time, my wife, my daughter, my granddaughter, they were here.
Okay.
I went to lie down. I didn't get better. I said, let's go to the hospital. They rushed me to the hospital. They had to do catheterization. I have one vessel occlusion, and they had to put a stent.
Okay. So it's early symptom of a heart attack.
It was a heart attack. It was a heart attack. And the amazing thing, really, I never smoked in my life. I don't drink. And I don't have diabetes. I have been active all the time. My father died when he was almost 100 years old, and my mother 95.
So that's good genes.
Yeah, but something went wrong there. But
People will argue could have been secondary smoke.
Maybe.
Did your family smoke?
My father used to smoke, yeah. My father used to smoke when he was young, yeah.
2 or 3 packs a day.
That's a lot.
Lung cancer and brain cancer.
Yeah, unfortunately, we all make mistakes.
Hey, and in those years, maybe it wasn't looked at as a mistake.
Yeah. Well,
It was looked at as probably just a habit.
yeah, that was cool. The lady with the cigarette in Hollywood, that's cool. Look at today, we say it's cool.
Yeah, media makes a very big difference the way people perceive.
Yeah.
Here in the villages now, okay, have you gone back to golf?
No, I haven't. Everybody's telling me some morning they're still cold or whatever. And I say, I'm going to do whatever I enjoy. I will be 83 years old, 83. So I enjoy it. I enjoy the classics. I like operas. I used to play violin, the classic violin. Yeah, I still have the violin over there someplace in the house.
Violin club here in the villages.
I know that, but I haven't played that in years. So anyhow, so here you have everything. You have more than 2,000 activities. You can do whatever you want. And but I like to do things on my own. My mind have been like a sponge to suck the knowledge. And now at my age, knowing my limitations, I'm so curious about knowledge, inquire about the programs that I see, the books that I read.
What's the most recent book that you've read?
I read The House of the Gucci.
The House of Gucci.
There is a movie too.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I read the just finished a couple of days ago, and I was amazed. The life, the glamour, and the up and down, and you wonder. My wonder is all this for what? The success.
Do you read any medical books these days?
Not really. No anymore. No anymore. I'm not. I am in touch with my friends. When I go back, I go to the hospital, the nurses. And so what happened is they say, oh, Dr. Forcina, you're so lucky that you left just on time, because they have big changes. Big changes in medical care. So now I'm a patient. And the patient, what happened is that I noticed the difference, because when I was in private practice, if somebody was in the emergency room bleeding, I would spend 24 hours there until the problem was solved.
Right.
Today, you call the doctor, you make an appointment, you have to wait 3 months, maybe.
Yes.
And so you are going to ask a question, and they're going to respond to you, maybe the paramedics, in 24, 48 hours. I remember at that time, when I was in practice, there was a beeper. We had the beepers. And I remember more than an occasion, we didn't have a cell phone at the time. So what happened was, I remember more than an occasion, we were in a restaurant with my wife, and they beeped me right away, anxious. I had to go and look for a phone, because I couldn't enjoy the meal anymore, because I think all that I was a very responsible person. And so that's a shock. Being in the way I practice, the way I see things today, is a shock to me. For better or for worse, I don't know.
Heard of or read the book by Dr. Peter Atta, Outlive?
No.
Okay. You're currently reading it on the
Yes.
and he talks about the difference between medicine 2.0 and medicine 3.0. Medicine 2.0 being all about fixing the current problem. You got a broken arm?
Yes.
It's a broken arm.
Yeah.
You got a cut, sewing up the cut.
Yes.
Okay, you have
Improve with the circulation, you do bypass, and improve. Yeah. Save the leg.
they find cancer, and
Yeah.
they're going to put you on chemotherapy or
Yeah.
okay. And medicine 3.0 as Dr. Ott is talking about it. It's about preventative
Yes.
medicine. Okay.
Yes, sure.
Keep you alive and at a high level of functionality until you're in your 80s, 90s, or 100s,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and you're functioning well, and then we die, we fall off the cliff, okay?
Well, yeah.
Okay. And so he talks about things like exercise,
Yes.
okay? Do you
Yes.
still ride the bike?
Yes. I do that 3-4 times a week. Yeah.
How far do you drive? Like, how far do you ride the bike?
20 miles.
20 miles?
20 miles.
Okay.
Yeah. I go all over. I pass here all the time.
Okay. You're not one of the electric bike guys, are you?
I do. I had the electric bike. I switched to electric bike because I realized that when I had to go over the the 44,
Yeah.
the bridge with that incline or whatever,
Yeah.
that's hard. And but I use it in a very low speed there. I use that. But I do my exercise.
Good.
And I walk also 3 miles every other day. So I try to do my part.
Okay. Yeah. Now, do you follow something like the Mediterranean diet?
I'm Italian, so olive oil. Yeah, we are used to that. We are used to that. But like I say, anything with moderation. So what happened? I realized my life had been a lot of stress, like anybody alive. But my life, working 3 o'clock, they woke you out 3 o'clock in the morning. The last few years of my practice, I was 72 years old. I was still practicing. And I remember the referring that I was well known, and the people, the emergency room, people from nursing home went to the emergency room, and they were there, people very sick, acute adequate perforation. So when the doctor called the family doctor, say, we need a surgeon, I'll call Sal. So now what happened was they call you middle of the night, and you had to go there, and you spend all night there, try to get a, eventually you had your private practice. And this was going on almost 3-4 times a week. And so what happened was that I told my wife, I say, I used to go to sleep, and I say, Bobby, Roberta, my wife, I say, I hope they don't call me tonight, because I couldn't sleep during the day.
Right.
Yeah. So anyhow, so there's a lot of stress.
I worked in the IT industry for a lot of years.
Yeah.
And the people with the IBM wanted 7-day a week, 24-hour days.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And one of the reasons I got out of that part of the business is I got tired of being woken up 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
To go in to see an account because the service wasn't what it should have been. I said, heck, I'm getting out of that part of the business.
Yes, yeah, it was a lot of stress. And plus for me, my personality, I was very responsible. Everything had to be taken care of now.
Were you the firstborn child in your family?
Yes.
You weren't an only child, were you?
I have another brother. He lives in Argentina.
Okay, but he's younger than you.
Yes.
Okay.
Like 6 years younger.
Yeah, you were the one that your parents trained with.
Unfortunately, during the war.
Yeah.
Not too much training there. You try to survive.
Right.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell our audience how you met your wife?
Well, that was a very interesting thing. What happened, I was doing my internship in Cooper Hospital in Camden.
Camden, New Jersey?
In New Jersey, yeah. And I chose that place because I want to have a good training. And what happened, unfortunately, Camden, at that time, I don't know today, was a very dangerous place. A lot of stab wound, shot wound, whatever. So many injuries. So we were in the operating room every day, every night. I got good training. I was there for 5 years. I trained them. So now I just came back from Argentina for my brother's wedding. And we were working, doing rotation with different group of surgeons. And it happened that I went to this other doctor to work with him. And he operated a gentleman, happy to became my father-in-law.
Okay.
He was the dean of Philadelphia Academy of Music. He was friend of Toscanini. Yes, he was very influential. And he was, during the war, in charge of rebuilding La Scala Milan that had been bombarded.
Right.
Yeah. And he was in charge after they rebuilt La Scala, Toscanini was here in this country, United States, flew to Switzerland. My father went to pick, and he conducted the first concert of the opening of La Scala. So now what happened was I was in the operating room, assisting, whatever, And when I finished, there was a note there to go to see this patient, a particular floor. So happened that this gentleman had major surgery, ended up with complications. He was not able to eat. He needed intravenous fluid. He had tubes all over. And they couldn't find a vein to start the intravenous. So they had the IV team there. They couldn't get it the first year. They said, eventually they called me. So I went there, and I remember vividly this gentleman with big eyes, pale, scared, sitting to the chair close to the bed. I went and introduced myself, and Petrillo, and we started to speak Italian. And when I find out he was a classical musician or whatever, Andre was his student. And so what happened was that so we started to talk. And we talk when he was in Italy and this and that with the American Army. And so eventually he said, okay, Dad, are you going to start the IV? So the destiny.
Right.
Okay. There was a destiny for me. I was lucky. I started that IV, and my father-in-law, future father-in-law, for him without realizing that.
You did it automatically.
And from that day, I was the second in command after God. When he got better,
You must have got an invitation for dinner.
so what happened was my father-in-law was very influential, and they were giving a concert in a private place, a house, a mansion in Philadelphia. Philippe Antremont was there, and Nadja Sonnenberg, the violinist, she was friend of the family. She was a teenager. And so what happened, my future father-in-law told my daughter, Roberta, my wife, said, listen, why you don't go with this daughter to represent us and this and that? So to make a long story short, we went there and we started to date or whatever. And from there, we went to the naval base in Philadelphia, the club there, and we were dancing. And so eventually I told my wife, had you ever imagined that you were dancing with the guy in green because I had the scrub all the time in the house? And that was the beginning of our relationship.
You wrote a book about your life, The American Doctor.
Yes.
Sal, if someone is interested in getting a copy, how do they do that?
First of all, you can go to Amazon or the American Doctor. His autobiography is all. As a matter of fact, you can download for free the first 2 chapters, and so you get the beginning of what this book is about. And people can follow me up on Instagram, Salvatore Forcina, MD, Dr. Salvatore Forcina, MD.
Why don't you spell your last name for our people?
Forcina, Salvatore. And that's Salvatore Forcina, MD, where they have all the picture, my family, my background, and that's it.
Great. I see you have a chapter on the villages in the book.
Yes, I have a good conversation with Robert, because what happened was I bike all the time, and there is a special place, a bench dedicated to see Robert. And I stop there and sit there, and in some way I start to meditate, think, Robert, this gentleman was here, who knows where he is? I'm here, I don't know for how long. I'm going to be the same. Maybe I'm going to have another bench or whatever. And I have a conversation with Robert.
Thanks for joining us today, Sal.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here. Thank you.
Remember, our next episode will be released next Friday at 9 a.m. Should you want to become a major supporter of the show or have questions, please contact us at mike@rothvoice.com. This is a shout out for supporters, Tweet Coleman, Ed Williams, and major supporter Dr. Craig Curtis at K2 in the Villages. We will be hearing more from Dr. Curtis with short Alzheimer's tips each week. If you know someone who should be on the show, contact us at mike@rothvoice.com. We thank everyone for listening to the show. The content of the show is copyrighted by Roth Voice 2024, all rights reserved.